up before, so I'm now going to put it up again. Let's see. All right. Yeah, you can join us on YouTube via our Zoom link. All right. When you go to Power 102, which I am doing right now on YouTube, Power 102. Power 102. 102 Breakfast Show. Let's see. Join us on. There we go. We see Power 102 FM. 9th of December. I click on that. It spins and spins and spins. And yeah, our link is onto the right via the chat. We are live now. Click the link below to join our Zoom. Okay? Yeah. All right. The Zoom link is there. This is where you join us. Can you come in for a little bit? And, put your contribution in. Of course, our poll this morning. Are you feeling the Christmas feeling? That's our poll this morning. Let me just check to see if we got any more there. Wendell? No, nothing new.
Well, I have 6 people saying yes and 3 people saying no.
All right.
Huh?
Wonderful.
Yeah, man. At least more people feeling the Christmas spirit than those who are not. So I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's take your calls as well at 222-8255, 612-8255. And North Americans got a toll-free number for you. I have to do this. At 866-525-1099. That's our telephone numbers directly into our studio. And of course, our Zoom link is on our YouTube channel. Right on the right, you'll see Power 102 FM. Just click on it. Just lower the volume of whatever device you're listening to. And you come in for a couple of minutes and make your contribution. And,
guys, I'm driving up the road Wednesday.
Wonderful, Wendell. Wonderful. Huh? Wonderful.
I'm driving up the PBR and I'm approaching the Quasi in San Juan. And I'm looking at I'm on the western side of the light, and I'm about to cross the light, and those those maxis that stop there.
Yeah, that's
so I see like a maxi taxi driver throw rubbish out of his vehicle, right? So I'm slowing down because I'm about to tell him something. You understand? Because he just threw it out the window. So I'm slowing down and I'm watching the rubbish on the ground. And I'm watching the maxi, but now, fortunately, I didn't have anybody behind me. So I'm slowing right down. I put on my hazard light. When I look on the ground, it's not rubbish, it's a wad of money. All his money wrapped up in a rubber band that fall out the maxi. I don't know how it ended up out the maxi on the ground. So he pulls the leave. So he ends up over the money. So I wind down my glass and I'm trying to attract his attention, but I don't know if he felt that it was some officer trying to tell him he shouldn't be stopping there. So he was kind of ignoring me. And so I put on my hazard lights, as I said, and I stood up in the middle of the road and I waved into him. Hey, your money on the ground, your money on the ground. Eventually he opened, because maxis don't wind down glass, they open the doors.
No. Yeah.
So he opened the door and he looked out and he said, well, I said, look, your money on the ground. Well, he was so shocked and relieved at the same time. A thick wad of money, fell out. I don't know where it fell from or if he threw it out by accident. But I was about to tell him he literally, not knowing it's a wad of money,
Yeah.
Boy, that maxi man was so relieved. He was in shock.
I'm sure he would be. Quasi, but that Quasi with maxis is, oh my God.
Yeah, on both sides, eastbound and westbound.
On both sides. They need to, but, the maxi drivers on the bus are not disciplined. They're still stopping. I actually was on 5th Street Barataria yesterday, and a maxi stopped on the bus route without pulling over. And it was right next to the crosswalk. And the police was right there upon the siren, and they must rough him up a little bit.
They should give him a ticket.
Yeah, they need to start pulling some bus route passes from these maxis because they're certainly not following the rules. They feel they can do whatever. Our next chaos spot that you see is right by Mount Hope.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
Mount Hope is and the Cureb Junction. Oh, geez, and ages.
Yep. You
They
know the
need to,
spots.
they need to confirm with them. And if you can't, it's don't. People will stand by a crosswalk and then only maxis will stop.
Mm.
If you stop away from the crosswalk, they will come to you and then they will know.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Adande, he could correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're going to put designated places.
They need to do that.
To wait on transport now and for maxis to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And if they stop somewhere else, they get a ticket.
Yep.
But then again, you see, this is where the transit police now, they need to enforce that.
Well, yesterday had a whole slew of traffic wardens along with transit police out there at about 5 to 6 different places.
Yeah, but they need to go like, I don't know.
Mm.
They need to really, because somebody is going to get knocked down again. We always see it by the Tunapuna market. We always hear about it. And when you go that area, just stop on the crosswalk. And it's not one or two, it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a safety issue. And, we cannot put a policeman at every crosswalk. But the drivers need to be a little, I know you're doing your hustle, but you have to think about the safety of the people. When people are driving on that road, we've seen police cars even knock down people.
The crosswalk should always be to the back of your vehicle, never to the front.
Yeah, exactly.
Never to the front, always to the back of your vehicle. That's where the crosswalk should be. So that oncoming cars can see the people crossing.
That's right.
Mm.
I
thought that was kind of easy to do.
Well, it is, I don't know. But they can't
none of them do it. None of them.
You take away their bus route pass. What?
Mm.
That will spread like wildfire throughout the Maxi community and they'll start to do it properly.
Mm.
They'll start to do it. Plenty of people take transport, especially during rush hour. It is horrendous. All right, so let's take some of your calls. 222-8255, 612-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Good morning to you, Ron. Okay. All right, morning to you, Ron. All right, so let's take, where did Pablo go?
Where he normally goes.
Oh, TT time. Okay.
Right here.
Oh, you're there.
I'm listening to you.
Yeah, didn't hear when Zena was calling you?
I don't have to speak to Zena every morning. I feel sometimes.
She had a message for you.
What message did she have?
Oh God, Zena will have to tell you that. We can't repeat it. We cannot repeat it. She had a message for you. Something strong, he not home, or if you're in a Remo, something like that. I don't know. Didn't quite understand it. I guess you all are talking codes.
She said strong in at home?
Yeah, I think that's what she said.
She was inviting me over.
I guess she will have to answer that for you, I do this, what you call it? The young people call it sneaky link. I do sneaky link.
Is that what they call it?
That's what they call it? Sneaky link. You well know, Paul.
I do sneaky link.
You well know. Yeah.
Zena
will call just now and tell you.
No.
Hey, Paul, come on, them a pair and blanket now.
No, she should have blanket off the bed.
You're taken home. Pam 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 pam. Old woman that you're taken home. Good morning, Mr. Paul Richards, Dr.
Old broom just find the corner, Old broom just sweep the corner better,
Let me sip my coffee and mind my business, eh?
Let me go eat my doubles, yes?
Steve is one cunt.
Yeah, old, Zena.
Jamaican, well...
Zena, let me ask you something.
Ask and I pull up somebody yesterday on your station for saying that, but the Calypsonians sing it. Sir Charles was saying that old people are saying no. Senior citizens, you understand? Those.
Zena, let me ask you something.
And those tips.
Zena, can I ask you something?
Sure.
You have a bottle of wine that is 3 years old. You have a bottle of wine that is 50 years old. Which one is more valuable?
The one that's 50 years old, once it ends,
Exactly.
that's not
Exactly.
expiring.
Wine is wine.
Mark,
Wine is wine.
yeah, when it cure, it's good. You can't
take no young wine when you have old wine there.
Oh, how you know? Tell Richard.
Old wine is champagne, you know. Richard old. He just don't want to admit he old. He old.
Tell Richard, because he don't know that it has something called growing old gracefully, you know, and you refer to senior citizens.
I know how graceful you are, because them things you're doing still. I ain't find you as graceful at all.
Ask Richard, tell Richard. Up to yesterday, I hear him saying, Wendell will know. He have better memory than me. I say, here it goes, he's confessing again. You understand? To his dementia. You know? So good morning again. You know,
he has better memory than me about certain things. Okay? Put it in context.
Oh, you drink your coffee now like you're ready for me. You wake up, you're calling that you could take some kind of special thing this morning. What it is you said?
And there are two perspectives on growing older. Some people who accept it and grow old gracefully, and some who are at war with it.
like Ragoobarsingh.
Richard, why are you joining? I wanted to say when they're done, today's smutty session brought to you by Paul and Zena.
Zena, can I ask you a question? She gone?
You could ask me anything, Paul.
I still a little too much bass in your voice, Zena.
Where's Zena going?
She gone, she money done.
No. Strongy grabbed the phone out she had and
That's exactly what happened.
It could be that.
Strongy come into the room and she hide the phone.
Could be that.
Snatch it out she had and slam it in the way. Talk. What am I talking to today? Come off the phone.
It could be that.
That's exactly it.
And make my bacon for me.
Strongy come into the room.
They're talking to man on the phone.
And
the numbers are.
And even the line open. 222-8255, 612-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. We are streaming live on YouTube. Just
Wendell,
102 FM, and of course, you can join the link.
That Hotel Charles clip again?
Oh, I have the jacket.
You have
just ignore him. Or just ignore him at this point.
Let's say Anthony Tinto, good morning.
Yeah, Tinto.
Oh, there she goes. You know, hang up the phone, Paul. Cheryl Seabrath, good morning to you. Have a wonderful, you are such wonderful humans. Have a great day, Wendell. Thank you. Of course, sent us a message via YouTube. All right, let me see what Paul, let's see how to find it now.
People are like this.
Breakfast, not in Power Breakfast, not now. Where's it, Paul? News.
Steve Khan.
Oh, there you are. Oh, you sent it to news. I so was not looking at that. All right, let's see.
You couldn't work with this, you know? Jesus.
No, there's no election. Just give me the matter there, I understand it, but we'll come to that in a minute. There's no election because we tell you we're going to educate the population on all the speculation that is going on outside. There is no election.
And they want to know if they are doing anything illegal right now.
No, they're not doing anything illegal or improper. And I don't want to go back through that. People have to remember what happened in the housing. The Tobago House of Assembly Act does not recognize party. In Trinidad, the parliament recognized party. Because the constitution says that the party, the leader of the party, whenever there is an election, that leader of that party that wins the election and have the majority in the House of Representatives is appointed as Prime Minister immediately.
Right, that's in Trinidad.
Party.
Correct.
In the Tobago House of Assembly is they could be all independent, elected members that vote for the Chief Secretary and the Deputy. You know, no party.
No party. So,
So we are looking at the THA and think that it is a foul when done is a rabbit.
okay.
So you're preparing for a rabbit, for a foul, and there's a rabbit you have there. And looking at Trinidad and looking at other countries, there is no, you remember I read that here? There is no other representative institution like the THA anywhere but in the democratic world. Robinson said that, and it is on House Paper number 1 of 2001. The person who asked the question can send to the House because it's public document, it's in the THA, and get a copy of it and read it. We don't recognize party. This is why when they had the tie, you're having all kind of advice coming from all kind of senior council in Trinidad about using section 92. And I tell them, you all are crazy, you know. Why they have the deadlock is because of the fact that if our THA access that if you have a tie in the house, they will say you have two groups of people because you remember you gang up. I belong to here, I belong to there. It doesn't recognize party here, but you go in there because the machinery you use was a party machinery to go into your house. After the election done, we don't recognize that. But you still go in the house, so I am PNM, you are PDP. Let me break it down. We could go into the other things. Let me do it now. You go into the house, and it's 6-6, like in December. The THA acts, all you first of all have to elect a presiding officer. And once you elect that presiding officer there, they're now going to be moving afterwards to the election of the chief secretary and the deputy.
Good.
And if you go, because most time you come back 6-6, right?
Yeah.
6-6, nobody not breaking no camp. Because I want to be in charge, you want to be in charge with your team.
Right.
And after this nomination, the presiding officer of a casting vote to determine who going to be the chief secretary.
Alright.
That's why the issue was not about the chief, you know. Why it was not about who going to be the presiding officer, you know. This is why they can't elect a presiding officer. Say, well, no. If they elect a presiding officer and the presiding officer take a side and go and vote for that side, it capsizes the whole arrangement that the people who went inside they had. There is no other institution like that in the world where you vote for the elected people go in the house and vote for the chief executive. There's not nowhere else. So don't use that there to deal with the Council Assembly. This is why I see Martin George do some foolishness too. And I say that very openly. Foolishness on. About legal challenge. Well, of course, anybody can put up a legal challenge, but you're not going to be successful. As you remember when they were to elect Faith as deputy, you remember the foolishness he was trying to have an injunction filed the very day after we exposed the damn nonsense that he was on. Foolishness. He doesn't know the THA Act. He doesn't understand what's going on here. And I listen to so many of them talking, this now happened there. This is a new dispensation, a new creature. You can't use nothing outside there to deal with the solution to this problem here. You have to know it. We know it because we prepare it. And the law is clear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If possible, Steve, you could get on to Mr. Hochoy Charles or Mr. Martin George or even Beverly Ramsey Moore.
When?
At some point in time, because
Well, we spoke to Martin George this week, and we will chat with Mr. Hochoy Charles next week.
I'm going strictly based on those things that Hochoy Charles saying there. Because if I remember, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, or at least assist me if I'm right. There was a time Deborah Moore Miggins was an independent candidate and in that house, and two other members, I think Beverly Ramsey Moore was one, they decided to go to the then president, A.N.R. Robinson, and ask that they be recognized as the minority in the THA. PNM had one lone representative in the THA for years, a gentleman by the name of William Mackenzie. I could see his face now. He was there for years, he alone. And he was always the minority leader in the THA because the NAR was winning for years. And they went to, and they said, no, they do not recognize independence. And they end up forming a party. And that's when they took over the leadership of the THA. Somebody needs to find out double check what I'm saying and tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. And Ho Choi Charles, I think, was also in the THA at that. I think he was the head. I think he was the chief secretary of the THA at the time. So what he's saying and what happened back then ain't meshing. At least what I remember it as, what I read it as, right? So somebody needs to clear that up for me. And maybe Beverly Ramsey Moore, because she is still around. I'm not sure about Deborah Moore Begins. I'm not sure if she's around still. But a situation like that, as far as I'm aware, developed back then, and they didn't recognize them as independents. They said, no, you have to be a party. So something is amiss. Something is amiss. And Ho Choi Charles, I don't know if his memory failing or what, but maybe he might be the best person to call, because I think he was the head of the THA at the time. If a situation like that didn't happen back then. A set of games. If it was PNM running that THA and this had happened with PNM people, although the amount of calls you would have been hearing, Ho Choi, every single Vanas, Winsford, all of them would have been coming out of the woodworks to say, call an election now. You have no moral authority to be there. You would have been hearing that. Trust me.
All right, so we're taking some of your calls. You join us on YouTube as well.
We're not hearing you.
I say once Fali Augustine and the other members of the THA form a party, it becomes a moot point, doesn't it?
Well, I hear in that, but how do you form? Well, again, as I said, history, the precedent has already been said that you could form a party during the construct of it.
Yeah, right. So, he said something erroneous there also, because I was actually searching for it and I found it. Right? Whereas there is occasion for the appointment of a prime minister, the prime minister, a member of the House of Representatives, who is the leader in the House of the party which commands the support of the majority of members of the House. So he's right, the party which commands the support of the majority of the members of the House.
Yes,
right. So
in terms of the House of Representatives.
That's Trinidad, right?
Yes.
In Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly Act does not say party.
Mm-hmm.
The election of the presiding officer or the chief secretary is not a construct of a party.
Mm.
So, to your point you started making there, Richard, can they now insert a party name post facto?
Yeah, I think that's the big question now.
I don't see why not. I don't see what prevents them doing it.
Well, I don't know. I'm asking a question.
If legislation doesn't bar you,
it can be done.
Then
if it's silent.
If it's silent, then and according to what Wendell just said there just now, it was done before.
Yeah, but as I said, I want somebody to just
that you insert a name of a party now that wasn't there when the election took place.
Sorry,
that you can insert. It's just that the people who make up the THA will now say we are now called.
That's right, and that will have nothing to do with the THA. They will just call themselves something externally.
Yeah.
So I guess they can. It wouldn't really be a part of the construct of the THA at that point. It would be just that is how they identify themselves outside politically.
Yeah.
All right, we have a call. Good morning.
Good morning again. I just want to say that would be very immoral, because what is the purpose of registering with the EBC and going up on a party symbol that people say, well, all right, we want this party. So when all you form that now, so any other party could come and impose themselves on all you and say, well, all right, we now part of the UNC or whatever as the case may be, and they plump all yourself in that position and call all yourself that in Tobago and impose that on the people.
That's a good point. What if the 16? You're right. What if the 13 members now decide, for argument's sake, They're part of the UNC.
Yes,
And Tobago didn't vote for that. You understand? What does that what questions does that raise now?
But
No, but I mean, what we're saying or line of argument now opens the door for possibly that.
That's exactly. That's you're very right.
Paul, where does the EBC come in this? If party have nothing to do with it, they didn't go each and register themselves their own symbol, and go up as independents. You all
very
went
good point.
Very good point. You understand? So it is very immoral to try to do that. The only
but not illegal.
Justify it. Is that illegal? You heard the word I use?
Yes, I hear the word immoral. But guess what?
So, and I know Mr. Basio Pandey said politics have a morality of its own, but don't take it to that level.
Privy Council, here we come.
I don't know if you were being clever when you used the word immoral and UNC in the same sentence. I don't know if you were just being clever.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God. All right. I'll leave that alone.
But she makes a good point. Because when you because the assembly election is also under the auspices of the EBC, and you would have registered, probably not have to, but you would have registered at your name next to a party symbol. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
So then what's the point of that? If it means nothing.
Yeah, that you could just everybody be an independent now.
Well, you can, but I don't know about the legal veracity.
It always comes down to the fact that the person was elected. So the party symbol even if you have an issue of symbol and somebody is saying, well, okay, I'm no longer a member of that party. If the law, remember, EBC is only in control of
election. Let me ask you a question, Richard, based on that. And I don't know, so I'm asking the question. In Trinidad, when you're voting, you affix your X next to a symbol, not so?
In Tobago too?
In Tobago too?
Yes.
And that's what I'm going with. So when you were voting,
some people it's a candidate. You have independent candidates in
right. But in the last election,
have a symbol
but Wendell, in the last election, were people not have affixed their X next to a symbol?
Yes.
So there are implications to that.
But I'm just
the EBC is in charge of elections. That's it.
Richard, independent candidates must register a symbol also,
Yeah, but my point is, Wendell, the EBC can't get involved in this as far as I can see because the EBC, it's not under their remit.
It's not an election.
It's not an election.
Well, maybe a court will have to decide that.
It can become an argued legal issue.
Yeah.
But EBC is in charge of elections. That's it. That's their remit.
I'm agreeing with you, but
those people were elected. The EBC is out of that.
Yeah, I suspect this is going to end up in a court.
Well, that's what Watson Duke says.
Yeah, I suspect it's going to end up in a court. Watson now, though, after telling the Trinidad government, we don't want all in Tobago business, now depending on the same Trinidad government to help him with this debacle. You know that, right?
Yeah, I don't know how what he expects the Trinidad government to do.
Well, to invoke the act under the House of Representatives.
That's not for the government to do.
Well, that's what he.
That's for a court to determine.
Right. But he openly get that kind of support.
And he has to be delusional to think he'll get that kind of support. No, quite frankly,
not from Keith Christopher Rowley.
Well,
wrong person.
But Watson has been delusional in many ways before. But we'll see how it goes. This is going to end up in court.
Yeah.
And I agree with Martin. It's interesting arguments. So it's interesting for it to end up in court, to hear how the court looks at it.
To see where it goes.
Yeah, to see where it goes.
I don't think Farley will be resting comfortably for a while, though.
Because there's so many questions that were not envisioned in this kind of scenario.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the US and Trump. Things that you never thought could happen would happen. So it's that's why
you could get some defectors there. He could end up with some defectors there.
You keep inserting this into this scenario. Keep putting it in the universe. I don't know that
because I've
anything is possible in the world.
Paul, I've seen it in politics, and which is why when Basdio Pandey made the statement, politics has a morality of its own, I've seen it and experienced it. And he was not wrong. Politicians, some of these people we have are strange. They are fickle.
It's a tough call, I know, for Farley Augustine and Faith B. Israel, who I always see as like second in command in my mind, in terms of how to navigate this. And I remember when we first started having this conversation, it was a toss-up between what's the ethical route and what's the political strategist route.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they've gone down the political strategy route in terms of Farley indicating there would be no elections. So you're obviously going down the route of we're going to try and prove ourselves worthy within the next 3 years. So by the time the next election comes up, you're now familiar with us and we have a track record.
If you don't get a legal challenge before that.
Well, I'm just going on what their mindset is in terms of those, in the duality of that choice. There is interest
to stay there and try to create some kind of track record. I understand that.
Yeah, but that's what I said. That's the political strategy route. But there is an argument for taking the ethical route, of course, and the argument is there may be repercussions from a political point of view, because the People's National Movement may get back into power. I don't know how Tobagonians are a little difficult to read in terms of how they vote. But it gives you the higher ground argument. And it gives you the higher ground argument in saying, look, we needed to disband because, and you could make the argument, Watson Duke was not a team player. We have a particular vision in how we see Tobago being run, and we are going to hold to that division that transforms Tobago. We realize that this entire imbroglio was really started by our former political leader when we were under the PDP. We are now formulating under our own symbol, our own party, and we are going back to the elections because we think it's the ethical thing to do. We are being ethical. What I ask upon you is whether Watson Duke or the PNM would be ethical if they were in this circumstance.
Let me give another.
We are saying, no, they won't. I'm just speaking as a Farley talk.
Right.
And I'm just saying that's the kind of argument you can make in trying to persuade Tobagonians to say, but what, and Martin George had indicated it in saying that he thinks that they will win points for being ethical about it.
Being ethical?
Well,
Here my counter argument to that, but it's along the same road. This is going to go down the same way Jack and Kamala went down, okay? Because what they decided, both of them decided, neither one of them must have power. Jack decided Kamala must not have power. Kamala decided Jack must not have power. That is where their war went down that road, you know, where they started to get personal about one another. And that's where it went.
And Wendell, and let me tell you what happens in the end. And along the same argument you're proffering there. The route you take to power is equally as important as the power. And I always had a question mark over the decisions by Mr. Augustine and his colleagues, understanding question marks over Watson Duke to join with him politically, based on how I saw Watson Duke run the PSC. And
we spoke about that
and understanding that there was so many questions over how Mr. Duke presided over the PSC, and understanding that if you get into political allegiances with someone who has those question marks, the same issues are going to arise in the new incarnation, which is exactly what happened.
Yep, it just happened.
You want to go down a particular road, and what's another particular idea of how he wants to go down as he has before.
Yeah.
So, and here we are today, the same issues have arisen that you have to separate yourself from him.
Yeah.
So why did you think it would be different?
Yeah, which is
why did you think it would be
thought,
different in the assembly as it was in the PSC?
Yeah.
And those are the questions I would ask Mr. Augustine. Why does this outcome surprise you?
Yeah. It shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. It can't.
Yeah.
But again, you made decisions based on an aspiration.
Yeah.
Without looking at the potential for disaster because of the entity you chose to align yourself with.
Yeah. And once that absolute power gripped Farley, that was the end of that.
Well, I don't know that it's because the absolute power gripped Farley. Because
Watson has been saying it.
No,
Watson was foolish.
Watson will say that, but Watson can't say that because that's Watson's modus operandi. Right. So he can't say that. But what I'm saying is, Farley realized now, if I continue with the baggage of this person, I too will become besmirched.
Yeah.
So it's now I got what I want out of it. Let me separate myself now to cleanse myself and my group. And that to me, too late shall be the cry.
I don't know if you guys can remember, at the very beginning, I had said that Watson is not going to remain deputy. He wants the chief secretary position. And I would have thought that he had made a proper arrangement, something unbinding, that Farley would step aside. And I too had thought at the time that Farley would be willing to step aside because, hey, I'm still deputy chief and we have the assembly. But clearly, when Farley got the chief secretary position, he said to hell with Watson. At least there's my interpretation, my opinion. That he said to hell with you, I don't hear. You could say and do what you want. Farley,
well, there's a trajectory of circumstances that led to this point. That started off with that cultural group in Tobago, from Tobago.
It was happening before that, Richard.
But I mean, that's really the genesis of where this.
No, I think it started before that. I agree with Wendell. That's the most public one, but it started before that.
But well, it's the public one we have to look at.
Watson just decided
everything else will be speculation
to get his way.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the public one we're going to have to look at. Otherwise, we're just speculating. And as far as I am aware, that was the only that was the main public one that ignited
look at the accusations that came afterwards that happened in the timeline before the issue with the supposed contractors in Trinidad. Yeah. All that is coming out after the fact that we had not heard about before because it mashed up.
And that is done there.
Yeah, but that was not all of those revelations after the culture issue.
But the timeline of it happening was before the
I know, but the revelation of it was post the culture group issue.
Yes.
It was raised after all of that. And that's what I'm saying. That culture group issue was the public genesis of the whole demise of the PDP under Watson Duke and Farley Augustine relationship in a public manner.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think if you recall when that Roxborough group traveling to New York, when that came out, what Watson Duke said at the time was that, the bills weren't being paid. Farley wasn't paying the bills. And by bills, he meant the PDP's expenses, essentially, which I think, I don't think Watson Duke wanted to be chief secretary. Watson Duke has, ambitions to be prime minister. He said that in an interview with Miss Williams from Tobago, the TV6 reporter across there. And he probably saw, the arrangement where they won, and he started to expand into Trinidad. He opened an office. Remember, they were supposed to be doing making I think it was a Tobago house in Trinidad. That was there on their manifesto, right? Something like an embassy. And what Watson did is he opened a PDP office. And Farley Augustine was not paying the bills, the PDP bills. And that was what Watson said, right? And that to me was the genesis of all of this, because Farley wasn't paying ball essentially. It's like, I let you run the THA, but I'm going to use the resources to continue to push in Trinidad. And that's probably the understanding.
But the revelation of that only came out after there, not before.
It's true. No, you're right. And that came out, but it came out around the same time when all of this was talking. And I don't know if you remember, Watson was saying that Farley was traveling to Trinidad with like a
bag of money.
A bag of money. Yeah, a bag of money. Yeah, all these things. I think, people say when you look at, like, when people study elections in Trinidad, right, there's only one party. Well, there are two parties, but there's PNM and there's everybody else. And that's how you study it, because the PNM is sort of like, because of the institution that it is. And I think in Tobago, in that elections, when people talk about, well, I listened to Dr. Vanas James talking about, the people in Tobago, by their overwhelming support at the polls for the PDP, that they would have, adopted or they would have agreed with the proposals that were put forward and all these things. I say no. People just voted out the PNM, and that's what it was. Yeah, they voted out the PNM. So when you ask now about whether or not they have a mandate to continue in the current dispensation as independents and stuff like that, I mean, they could continue. The law is, as far as people say, I mean, even
until it's challenged.
Until it's challenged. But I think insofar as a mandate is concerned, once you don't have like a strong, once the PNM does not is not seen as a viable replacement at this time, based on who the leader is across there, the guy in the chamber, what he's saying and stuff like that, people will just be fine with following them, and because people are seeing there are progress and things that are being made, and people still want to have something that is different. You will still have that pride.
Progress in Tobago, Derek?
That's a separate conversation, but
Tobago is stagnant with
Tobago is,
oh God.
It's been stagnant for 21 years, right?
No, Derek Cornwall, you ain't getting away with that statement. Derek Cornwall.
Tobago is stagnant. Nothing has changed in Tobago.
You ain't getting away with it.
Listen.
Or they're going on political.
One thing we ain't doing this morning is
political differences.
Right? Let's do facts. We know the PNM wasn't perfect, but we know under Orville London and especially under Orville London, a lot was done in
okay, so apples and grapes, right? I'll tell you this. You know why, Wendell? Because you're talking about 21 years versus 12 months, right? So I don't think that comparison is fair insofar as what you've done and what you've achieved.
But you want this motley bunch get 21 years too?
No, I'm not saying it's not what I want, First of all, it's not what I want, right? I'm just pointing out that with respect to Watson Duke, people were saying that everybody knew what he was, and so in Tobago, Watson Duke was seen as a means to an end. That's how I see it. So that he was seen as a person and his group that could depose the PNM, and that's what it was. People voted around and stuff like that, and if now they've decided to shed load then to get rid of him because he started to become as an opposition, it's easier to. As I said before, it's easier to stand on the sidelines and to complain than it is to govern, right? And he had a lot of questions and that's his,
Let me tell you what I like in Watson Duke too. I like Watson Duke's rise in politics, especially in Tobago, to that of Donald Trump in the Republican Party and in America. They just didn't think it would happen, so they just leave him be. And the PNM just didn't think Watson Duke was a credible force. And they just left him be. That is what happened. And look at where we are today.
How could they not think that,
America did the same thing. And then Donald Trump, next thing he talk a certain nonsense. He end up winning the Republican thing. And then next thing the man is the prime candidate for president of the United States and won.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point, right? Because the argument could be made whether or not when he won against Obama, right? Not Obama, when he won against Hillary, right?
Yeah.
Coming after 2 years of Obama, right? 2 years of Democrats. So there's an argument there that you could have put
2 terms.
2 terms, 2 terms. There's an argument that you could have put up anybody, right? But it was just the Republicans' time then.
But the Democrats, just like the PNM, also had the wrong person at the helm. That's a fact.
So the question is whether or not why did people sort of hold their nose and still voted for Donald Trump, knowing all the things that he did, right? Why did they still go with that choice? And I'm saying to you that it's about voting out. So it's like in the case of the US, you really have 3 terms, like a party then having 3 terms in office, like 2 terms, and then there's a switch because the policies that one party would have put in place for that 8 years, 2 terms, then people will come out and say, okay, well, let me get a chance to reduce taxes, do this, do that. That is not the focus of the Democrats say. I think in Trinidad here, people simply Watson Duke was just a means to vote out the PNM. But he's not as powerful as Donald Trump because we don't have primary elections, and in the US, Donald Trump has control over those diehard Republicans who will go out and vote in a primary. So before you even get to a ticket.
I don't know, because Tobago has always been a little different in terms of the context of their politics and how they vote.
That's true.
Vis-a-vis Trinidad.
That's true.
So I think the assessment may be accurate in a Trinidad context, but in Tobago is a little different in how they vote and how they decide. And personalities and likability maybe matters more for Tobagonians, and how Tobagonian you are, and what I don't know what are the various points that they use in deciding. But certainly they've had more change in Tobago than Trinidad, obviously, in terms of who they have let rule them in terms of party politics.
So I guess the trajectory I was looking at was basically how powerful is Watson Duke now? That's what I was looking at. Like how powerful is he? I don't think essentially that he's as strong as Donald Trump is in the United States outside of office. I don't think that's an equal comparison there. I don't think Watson Duke has that amount of political power right now. That's what I'm saying.
Well, gentlemen, this is where we're going to have to leave it this morning for our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Derek. You can join us again next Friday when we stream live on YouTube, where you could we stream every morning after 7 o'clock, but this is where you can join us. All right, so we'll do that next week Friday. Let's get into 8 o'clock news brief, all powered by Champlain Auto Services.
This